Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Yugo Tube. Today, we're crossing a few things off the list so that we can get this Yugo here up to par for a daily driver. We're going to turn it from this into this. So stay tuned. So here are a few things that we've got to get going on this car to make it so that it's a little more roadworthy and looking cool so that we can use it for a daily driver for what few months we have left in this car driving season before the snow flies. We've got some wheels and tires which will be going on the vehicle this episode, but we've got a few things that we've got to do before we get there. You noticed on the list we've got some wheel spacers, we've got some new stud lugs or lug studs or whatever you guys call them over there in Europe. We're going to see what we can do to modify the front struts to get this thing lowered down a little bit. Not sure if we'll get to the bumpers today. We're going to put the interior back together. We're going to do some tune-up items. And again, I'm not sure how much of this we're going to get done in this episode. Wheels and tires for sure, but stay tuned because that'll be at the end of this video. And because we had to tear apart the fuel system on this, we've got to kind of put everything back together. These are our parts. This is where they got to go. So let's get to work and get the interior kind of looking a little more presentable. Okay, so we didn't get very far on getting the interior back together. We did get that panel put back in place. It's all screwed down. But the trouble I'm having right now, and I'm going to have to come back to this, is the seatbelt retractor won't allow me to pull on the seatbelt. The problem I seem to have is that that little ball at the bottom has to sit in a little cup so that that retractor will actually move up and down like it's supposed to right now. The problem I'm having is once I get it bolted in, it changes the angle to like something like this, and the ball slides over, and you'll see it, watch. It's in good shape there right now. If I move it, it slides out to the outside edge, pushes up on that white piece, which in turn hits that little lock and locks it into place. So I've tried adjusting the angle, but then the seatbelt binds up kind of like so to get it to go properly. And as you can, I'll pull it back there. So if I get this angle, frig with it. I ain't gonna frig with it anymore. Anyways, it's got me frustrated. So I'm just gonna set it aside for now and we'll move on to something else. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with an oil change. Now this car takes a 12mm hex, and someone has modified a bigger hex socket or hex Allen key to fit up in there just like so, and we're going to get that loosened up. Now a lot of people have been asking, Jason, how is it to get parts for this car? Well, everything you see on this table, the plug wires, timing belt, the cap, rotor, spark plugs, belt, the upper rad hose, all that stuff was available on Rock Auto, and that's exactly where I got it. So a huge shout out to Rock Auto for stocking parts for Yugo. And then these couple other things that I got, which is the wheel spacers and the lug studs, those were readily available on Amazon because they're common. The wheel spacers are quite universal. They're slotted so they fit the 4x98 and the 4x100 and 4x114.4 or 0.3. As with the lug studs, they're common as well. They're 12mm by 1.25. And I noticed that the previous owner has a Fram oil filter on it, and well, no big deal because it takes the same oil filter as a lot of the Kia, Hyundai, Toyota, all that stuff, same thread. So let's get the oil drained. We'll change the filter. We'll top it up with some fresh 10W30. All right, so got the oil change done. Now I think we'll move on to something quick and easy, and that is the plug wires, cap, and rotor. Now, these wires are pretty hard. Like you can hear them when they hit the side of this fan here. So we're going to take those off one by one. we're going to replace it with the new ones, and then we'll go back and do the cap and rotor. Things are starting to look pretty good down here. We got a new cap and rotor, brand new wires, and new NGK spark plugs. So, time to cross a few more things off the list. And here are the old plugs that came out of it. Now these ones here, I'm not sure, they're Champions, but I'm not sure how long they've been in there. They look like they've been in there for a little while. They're not terrible, maybe running a little bit on the rich side. But what gets me here is these plug wires. They are stiff and brittle. I think if I tried to bend that, it might even almost break. No, but it turned white. So these have seen their day. In there, getting a lot of heat and everything. Cap and rotor, that cap has got some black marks in there on that copper. There you can see a little bit of there. Rotor, same thing. Good time to replace it. Now, from what I've been reading, the timing belts are pretty simple and straightforward to install. The only difference between this and most other engines is that you're going to time your timing marks when cylinder number 4 is at top dead center. I think I'm going to save the timing belt to the end, along with getting rid of the smog pump and all these vacuum lines, just because right now we know it's running and it's going to be the last thing that we do. So I think now what we're going to do is we will drain the radiator. We'll get rid of this Mortsky approved flexi hose and we'll replace it with the new one that I got from Rock Auto. Even though it says CarQuest, CarQuest did not list anything at all. So we're going to get that installed and swap out the antifreeze and the thermostat. Let's go. Okay, so we've got the hose off there. You can see it sitting on the floor. We'll probably keep that as a spare because you just never know. It'll do in a pinch. But one thing I had noticed about this Yugo is that it is running a little bit on the warm side. If you guys recall to this video right here, you'll see that the temperature gauge going down the highway was reaching close to maximum. So with the light, I was able to kind of shine it down in there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get you guys to see it or not. But if I zoom in, you'll see this is the thermostat right there. And it looks like it's all cocked off sideways. Something's not right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the thermostat housing off and then we'll inspect it. So we've got the thermostat housing apart. Only broke off 2 of the 3 bolts. That's fine. But as you can see, the thermostat itself is broke. This piece here is broke off. That whole center part is cocked off sideways, and part of the rubber gasket is pulling that through there. So a couple of things, we're going to have to get some gaskets, one for the thermostat itself. That's in pretty rough shape. And we're going to have to get one that goes onto the block here as well. So I guess what started as a flexi hose repair, thank you Mortsky, has now turned into a little bit of an ordeal. I've got to go find a thermostat and see if we can get this one swapped out and actually taken out. There we go. Oh yeah. Like, what the hell happened here? Like, that is mangled. What do you guys think happened? Leave your comments down below. That is... My initial guess is maybe water. And it froze, but it didn't break anything. Anyway, that's where we are. That's what we've got to do. So I guess this portion is on hold. I'm going to have to go see if I can find a thermostat and some gaskets for this thing. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm pretty sure Rock Auto has exactly what I need. So I guess that means the Yugo isn't going anywhere, but at least we can make it look cool. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start on the wheels and tires, and we'll see what kind of spacing we have to deal with. I do know that this strut may come into play with the width of these new tires and the offset that we're putting on. So let's get those mounted and balanced, and then we'll get these ones off and see what we're working with. Okay guys, we've got the wheels and tires ready to get mounted and mated together. But before we did that, I wanted to make sure I could mount the wheel on the hub to see if it was going to make clearance with everything, because once I get a tire mounted on it, I can't send them back, and 4x98 bolt pattern is not that common. So let's take a look and see what we're up against as far as clearances go. So first of all, what do you think of the wheels? These are a kind of a gunmetal color. I think they go very well with the red. Should we keep the red color, they might go very good with something else as well. Maybe we'll get a wrapped, who knows? But anyway, we can see in behind here, and it's bolted tight. Here's where I have found my first concern. One, we've only got about 3 or 4 inches there between where the tire is going to be and the strut. Remember, the tire is going to be spinning. We don't want it to be cut down. So I do have some wheel spacers where we can kind of pull this out this way to help with that. The other one is the tie rod, and I'm not sure if I can get this to focus. Right there, you see there's very, very little clearance up there on that top corner. So what we've got to do is we've got to turn the wheel left and right and see if it's going to hit when we're turning. So that tie rod actually turned away a little bit. We've got some clearance, might have some clearance issue here on the fender. But then again, the wheel, then again, right now the car is just kind of hanging. Go this way, same thing. We may run into a little issue there with some clearance, but I'm comfortable knowing that the wheel is fitting on the car, so let's get some tires on it and see how many spacers we gotta use. All right, so now's the moment of truth to see if these things are going to fit and make clearance without a spacer. I think we're good. All right. Ooh. Just. Inner tie rod. Oh yeah. I think we're going to be all right on the front. Let's go check the rear. Well, I'm thinking we may need some spacers back here, because if you look, of course, this trailer hitch is going to be gone, but if that goes up, it may come in and hit the inside of the frame, and then up in here as well. We don't have a whole lot of clearance. Granted, the camber on these is kind of hanging in, so when that goes up, it might push itself away. So I think we're gonna have to get these things tightened up, at least with a couple of lug bolts, and then get the car on its own weight, see where it is. Let's do that. Well, there's the car sitting on all fours on its own weight. Now I've rolled it back and forth a few times. I've jumped on the front and back bumper just to make sure that we could get that settled down. And I think we're good. But there's one thing that's bothering me a little bit. If you look at the track of this front tire, it's sitting flush with the outside of the fender, and I'm okay with that. But we go back to the rear, and it's set in a little bit compared to the front. So the front has a wider track than the back, so I think what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to add those wheel spacers on the rear and try it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll give you the final reveal. All right, guys. If you really want a headache, buy yourself a vehicle that has lug studs and then try and put them on with a wheel spacer, because that's a whole lot of fun. They don't want to go in there. I couldn't get these wheel spacers on, not because of the lack of trying, but simply because my lug studs aren't long enough to go through the wheel, through the spacer, and then through the brake drum to the hub, and still have enough thread to take dog. Couldn't even get it to do that. So we're gonna have to find some longer studs so that they can go in there and grab a hold of the hub assembly. But I think these are gonna work, because when I put it up there, I could still visually see that they were gonna poke that wheel out ever so slightly. The other thing that we might be able to do with the front to set those in a little bit, seeing as how we do have a little bit of clearance here, and we do have a little bit of clearance with the tie rod, is there is a spacer plate that goes between the wheel and the brake rotor, and there's a couple of bolts that hold it on there, and one has a guide pin for your wheel. Not these ones, because they're aftermarket, but as far as I can see, that's all it does, is it's just a guide plate, so that when you put your factory wheels on, it's got that little stud that sticks out here, holds the wheel onto the hub so you can get your lug bolts on. We might be able to take that off. That looks like it's about 1/4 of an inch, so we'll try that at some other point. But for now, I guess we're pretty much at a standstill before we dive into the timing belt. And I think I'm going to save that and the air pump and all those vacuum lines for the next video. Let's get this thing down off the hoist, back it outside, and get a really good look and a reveal of what this car looks like with some pretty decent looking wheels and tires on. All right, folks, stage 1 is complete with transforming this blah 1980s Yugoslavian POS into something cool that you actually might want to drive. Let's take a look. And there you have it. There is a 1987 Yugo GV with 15-inch wheels and tires on it. And I don't know if I mentioned that before, but going to the 15s. Don't mind the antifreeze puking out of the bottom of it. If you've been watching this video the whole way through, you'll understand exactly why it is. I'm gonna fix that once we get a new thermostat and some gaskets made up. So anyways, tell me what you think of the Yugo with the 15-inch wheels and tires down in the comment section down below. Guys, if you have not yet subscribed to this video, stay tuned, because the Yugo is getting more than just wheels and tires and lipstick on a pig. We are actually going to be looking for a donor car so that we can do a complete motor and suspension swap, maybe take this thing autocrossing. At least that's the goal. We've got the wheels and tires for now. We're likely going to get that thing lowered down a little bit with the stock suspension until we can find that proper donor car. It's still going to get a timing belt. We've done the tune-up today, and we've got a few other things to do to help get a little few more. Come on. We've got a few more things to do to get some horsepower out of the stock engine. We're not done with it yet. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, because that's where I do a lot of sneak peeks. If you do follow me already, you'll know that I've already posted a few sneak peek pics about this video. Guys, stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. Love you, God bless. I'm going for a drive in my... No, I'm not. It's got no thermostat.